Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for introducing Maham. And so when I came to know about Ajeeb festival, I was like, this is a, aapko awaaz aa rahi hai sabko? This is a good opportunity to talk about the power of illustration. So as a design practitioner, I'm a graphic designer by practice. सही? ठीक है. अच्छा, तो I'm a graphic designer by practice, and my talk today is about how I use illustration as a means to talk about social design activism and exploring like different mediums of storytelling. So just to give you a brief overview of my background, I am a science illustrator. I currently work at LUMS. I'm a children book illustrator and also a social design activist. So illustration jo hai, it's like visual arts hogi jo related to illustration. It's basically the meaning of illustration, it extends beyond the two-dimensional surface. क्योंकि हमारी सोसाइटी में it's very इस करियर को काफ़ी डाउट करते हैं कि ये क्या है, ये तो बस पिक्चर है, it doesn't has any meaning. But I think over the course of my illustration career, it's more than that. So personally, I use illustration to tell stories that are very transmedia, and I explore illustration and to tell stories related to science, technology, speculative design, as a means to tell children's stories, and also to raise awareness as a form of social political art. So I will be exploring these four sections of how illustration is used. So illustration in scientific research is kind of relatively new. आप लोगों ने तो इसका maybe सुना नहीं होगा, but when I joined LUMS, I joined as a science illustrator, and मेरा background science से बिल्कुल भी नहीं था, ना technology से था, and I had no idea कि मैं इस area में क्या करूँगा, but it kind of opened new avenues for me to explore. So as a science illustrator, I have worked with the Lancet HIV, one of the most prominent scientific journals in the UK. So this happened after 1 year of joining LUMS. So this was like a freelance project. They saw my illustration at LUMS and how I was using illustration to basically condense scientific jargons, scientific terminology hoti hai. How do you condense that to tell stories that are easy to understand for an ordinary person? So using illustration and scientific technology, I kind of condensed that to create these visual illustrations on the theme of HIV. Because HIV ka topic was very complicated, it's very broad. और इसमें काफ़ी it's just very complicated topics. उसको कैसे आप as a story explain कर सकते हो to an ordinary layman? So this was my collaboration with Lancet, and also I kind of blended in my personal interest of science fiction in it. ये मैंने एक topic था DNA, तो मैंने DNA की city बनाई. I imagined it as a futuristic sci-fi city. So at LUMS, I art direct our flagship magazine on science at Sayyid Babar Ali School of Science and Engineering. So वहाँ भी my task is to condense scientific research और जो हमारी annual होती है faculty ने research की है या कुछ भी, and condense it into like these small cover art projects. Yeah, this is one of our magazine layout. So anyone who's interested in science, technology, you can head over to Sabasi, LUMS ki website, and you can read these magazines. So another collaboration I did was with Qatar Foundation in designing their thumbnails on the topics of AI and decoding health. So again, as an illustrator and storyteller, my task is to explore कि हर region में how illustration has to be used. So these were for the Middle East. तो मैंने उनका भी थोड़ा incorporate किया, icons related to Qatar and the Middle East. So precision health के topic पे मैंने illustrations बनाई. Decoding health के how precision health is एक बहुत interesting topic है. How do you tackle certain disease, and उसके इर्द गिर्द I had to create the illustrations. So illustration in publishing, another exciting theme जो मेरा personal है. Like I love reading literature, तो मुझे when the publishing houses started reaching me to create different cover art for different projects. For example, one of the editorial art I did was for Al Jazeera. So I had to create an illustration on the topic of Fatah region. ये फाटा के ऊपर था tribal areas, तो उसको कैसे convey कर सकते हैं. So with this illustration, I did a lot of research के वहाँ का village कैसा लगता है, and I did also like a mark for अभी देख सकते हैं. So this was like in 2019, and at that time I was still working on developing my illustration practice. Posting on social media जो हम सब करते हैं. तो मैं इसमें I was still developing my style. Then slowly over the course of the last 5 years, I started working on different middle grade book cover projects by Bloomsbury, HarperCollins, Walker Books. So all of these big publishing houses. Mostly I worked on narratives that were South Asian in nature. So उसमें मुझे काफ़ी मज़ा आया कि how do you tell a story that's very relevant to Pakistan, India, and the subcontinent. So I worked on these Roji Raja series जो कि World War में set थी. Yusuf Hazem is not a hero, which was about post 9/11, and it centered on this Muslim kid who's bullied in America. So it was like set 20 years after the 9/11 incident. So publishing में मुझे ये एक बहुत मज़ा आता है कि how do you tell localized stories जिसमें protagonist is brown, not white. तो उसमें एक like there's always fun to explore the other side of the narrative. And one of my award-winning book cover project was working with Maida Khan to create these two series, Noora and Immortal Palace, and Amir and the Jinn Princess. So Noora jo thi, it also centered on the story takes place in South Asia as well, in Pakistan, and it was about how child mining में जो बच्चे काम करते हैं, how they are exploited. But then this girl, she enters this realm of jinn. So the book won the Waterstones ka Children's Book Prize in 2023. So this is some of the process art that went into it, the creating the Jinn Palace. And so the book जो है वो बड़ी interesting थी, like the external cover जो है, it pops out, and then there's another cover inside showing the girl entering the realm of jinn. So these are like some of the sketches that I did of the different design phase में जो process मैंने बनाया था. So the chapter headers that went into the book, like creating what kind of jinn कैसे लगते हैं, as a chapter headers. So these were like some of the chapter headers I designed. I think I designed 30 in total. So these books are available at readings as well. So if any one of you guys are interested, you can buy the book. And this is the cover for the sequel that came out last year. So it followed the same design pattern of the previous book. Again, some new 30 illustrated chapter illustrations. Also designing the jinn ki koi princess thi, So how do you create that? So a display at Waterstones. Waterstones, UK ki one of the best bookstores hai, like Liberty Books ho gaya, readings yahan pe ho gaya. So this is me visiting my team in the UK. I also got to sign some books as well. So another design process of Rosie Raja. So here I took, I had a lot of creative flexibility in designing ki cover art kaise lagega. So the book was called Churchill's Spy, right? So Churchill get like different interpretations or the main protagonist thi uske, but we finally settled on the cover on the extreme right. So I also got to work on a picture book on Eid. This was like a very detailed 6-month project. This is also available at Readings and Liberty Books. Jam and the Giant, again, it's a twist on Jack and the Giant, but this time with a South Asian protagonist. So you can see the process, like creating the line art first and then coloring the artwork. And this is a relatively new book that is coming out in April. और इसमें मुझे बहुत मजा आया था बनाने का because the book is about partition of India and usually इस topic के ऊपर books जो है middle grade books या young adult books बहुत कम होती हैं. So Heba Noor जो है she is a award winning author in the UK. तो उन्होंने ये book लिखी है about these 3 kids who are separated after the partition of India, and so I'm currently reading this book right now. इन्होंने मुझे advance copy भेजी है. So the fun part was I also added the map of Pakistan and India hidden in the trees, if you can spot that. So this is a fantastic, middle grade book, and if anyone of you is interested, you can buy it when it's out in April. So another one of my project was working with Google to create the doodle for Moin Akhtar. ये था 3 साल पहले, and the funny story was how I was the one who reached out to Google. 1 year prior मैंने पूरा एक proposal बनाया था, and I just reached out to them via, I think उनका है Google Doodle page. So I just submitted my proposal, though it was not about Moin Akhtar, but they reached out to me 1 year later, and I was like, wow, sending proposals to art directors, to anyone, even if it's Google, it worked. So the idea of me telling you this is, don't wait for the client to reach out to you. You take the initiative, take that step, take that risk, and just do it. Even अगर आपको पता है, अगर कोई Facebook को भी आप भेज रहे हो या कोई Google जैसे आप company को भेज रहे हो, you never know who will see your work. So this was the full Google Doodle, and it was inspired by Moin Akhtar ka theatre show, drama, because he was such a versatile actor, right? He was a comedian. उनका जो वो पूरा एक televised show था where he would appear like as a multiple different personas. So मेरा task था, how do you combine that? How do you merge all that into creating this Google Doodle? So the concept was to give a nod to the 80s and the 90s. So if you're like a millennial growing up in that time period, आपको याद होगा TV पे वो colored strips आती थी, those color bars. तो मेरा उससे idea आया था कि that kind of resemble, Google के colors as well. फिर मैंने पूरा Google जो लिखना था उसको मैंने TV में incorporate किया, like vintage TVs लिए, और उसकी kind of personality I tried to convey through that, और Google उसके अंदर लिखा हुआ. So this was one of my most powerful projects up to date, and like बहुत इस पे sketches बनाने पड़े काफ़ी इस पे. So I had like 1 month to design the doodle, like different personalities explore की as a theater, or as a TV, or as a comedian. So how do you merge all those different traits into one? And the next day I was all over the newspaper, Google Doodle tribute to Moin Akhtar. So this project में बहुत मजा आया था. So illustration in film and television, I got to work with Z5, जो कि web series है. So this was a project on a South Asian noir. like art noir is a genre. It's usually found in like the West. Like West में generate हुआ था in the early 1930s and 40s. So जब ये project आया मेरे पास, I was so much interested in how do you incorporate elements from the Western noir aesthetic and apply it into South Asian aesthetic. So yeah, I got to see the entire series. मुझे सारी series दिखाई थी start में, and then this was the poster that I designed, and I also got to meet Sanam Saeed, right? Saeed, yeah. Yesterday at LLF वहाँ पे भी आई हुई थी, तो मैंने उनको दिखाया कि मैंने आपका poster design किया हुआ. तो these were like the different series. एक YouTube का था I think music announcement poster और teaser poster, streaming poster. So 4 posters बनाए थे. And then another project I worked on was Farar. Again इसमें सरवत गिलानी भी थी, and they flew me to Karachi to shoot photographs, the poses of the characters. ये भी I think web series है, ये online है. So design, journalism and activism through illustration. So since moving back to Pakistan, I moved back in 2019, and मेरा social activism में बहुत interest था कि how do I tell important stories जो हमारे society में हो रही हैं, how do I illustrate them into these activism inspired artworks. So why activism through illustration? हमारी society में there's like so much happening every day. There's like anxieties, there's fears, कुछ ना कुछ हो रहा होता है. How do you tackle all that and convey it as an illustration piece ताकि आप public को educate कर सको. So मेरा personally it helps me channel my fear, anxieties and anger, and that's how I started using illustration as this tool to tell these stories जो कि आमतौर पर नहीं बताई जाती हैं, और how do you educate the masses through illustration. So जब अब last year जब smog थी इतनी ज़्यादा, so my idea was how do I tell the audience के smog की क्या reason है. So this was just a very fun idea that came into my mind, merging Godzilla with smog, and I made Smogzilla. So how to defeat Smogzilla. So this was like a poster, like an advertisement आप कह लो, that are just posted online. And then some of my other posters, so I used to look up at Dawn या Tribune, और उसमें जो भी daily news आई होती है, I used to just illustrate it, condense it into small visual narratives. और फिर मैं उनको I started posting them on my social media page. For example, Pakistan claims devastating locust attack. So how do I convey that story? तो मेरे idea में ये आया कि grasshopper है, और उसने map Pakistan का, like he's destroying the crops. But then Zainab का case, how do I convey harassment and all these sexual allegations जो ये जो होता है assault, is how do I convey that into a visual format, educate करो. फिर honor killing, and side by side I was also working with Marty TV जो कि एक NGO है who talks about these social themes. So child labor के ऊपर एक poster, how do I translate what's written into a visual artistic piece. Hazara genocide के ऊपर end dog culling, Sudan revolution and उसके ऊपर so harassment scandal है लाहौर के स्कूल जब वो आई न्यूज़ पे, how do I talk about that. But then these were also picked up by BBC Urdu. They reached out and they wanted to use it in one of their stories. Kashmir के ऊपर and the siege, and you will see like how I appropriated existing imagery and translated that into a poster. So there's always some sort of visual vocabulary that inspires me. Either कोई image होगी, and then I use that and translate it into a poster for activism. another Kashmir poster for Kashmir Day, Aurat March, and then Black Lives Matter. So I'm sure many of you might be aware of the George Floyd incident. So I also took that opportunity to, create that for the Black Lives Matter topic. And this was picked up by, I think, one of the museums in New York, and they wanted to exhibit it. मुझे याद नहीं आ रहा कौन सा म्यूजियम है, but I think 2020 की बात है ये. Yes, something like that. मुझे याद नहीं. I think Y से था मुझे. Yeah. So APS massacre. So how do you create a poster commemorating the like the anniversary of this incident? So COVID के ऊपर मैंने काफ़ी pandemic के ऊपर बनाया है, and these were picked up by different illustration new agencies online, उन्होंने repost किया. So join the fight. So during COVID, I started this comic strip आप कह लो as like super health warriors as superheroes. They're fighting COVID, and this was also exhibited as published as a cover art. Palestine के ऊपर podcast, the Green Dreamer podcast, they reached out and for me to create this. Then the Palestine incident at Sheikh Jarrah, उसके ऊपर how do I visually translate what was happening in Sheikh Jarrah, because the Israelis, they were taking away the homes. तो मैंने home का icon लेके कैफिया में डाला, the homes are breaking apart. So इस तरह के like visual symbols I started posting them on social media. Another one of my famous posters is this one, freedom shall take its tour. So there's a tree coming out of like a sapling coming out of the blood that's being shed. So this one is very interesting because I'm minimalistic बिल्कुल नहीं हूँ. मेरा काम is always like splash of colors. It's very maximalist approach. So creating this poster was a very big challenge. Okay, a minimal कैसे बनाऊँ? So these were like different iterations that I made, but finally I settled on the one on the right. With some of the process work for this poster, from the river to the sea. So all of these posters were, I placed them on a drive, and people could freely download them. So बहुत लोगों ने they used them throughout the genocide marches जो भी last 2-3 years हो रही. This was for an exhibition, Save Gaza. So my favorite, my most popular poster is this one, Our Voices Will Never Be Silenced. So this poster was actually inspired by this picture I came across on social media, with a bacha. I really love the small action that he's taking with the flag. और उसको भी मैंने translate किया into this poster. So does the activism work? So of course it does. It always does, and it's like this prism effect. आप देखो, like as an artist, I create something, but it's up to the audience. कि जो audience हो आप लोग, and the people who are looking at the art, they are the ones who will be taking action upon them. And that's how I was reached out by Pali Roots, एक बहुत बड़ा brand है USMA. They're working towards for Palestine cause. They reached out. They wanted to collaborate in creating this merchandise. So yeah, as hoodies, as sweatshirts, and then people exhibitions reached out to me to exhibit my artwork. So people used to tag me on social media कि ये आपका है poster. So some of the, so this is like the idea of that activism really works. Tagging me in places, I think New York tha या Toronto tha, people were just sharing their images with me. और फिर एक बात एक time ये भी आया कि I started removing my name from the posters because I was very worried कि ये कुछ हो ना जाए मेरे साथ, so I need to be serious. You have a question? Okay. Okay, so again, some posters. So yeah, so my personal design practice is on this idea of South Asian futurism or speculative design. So my MFA thesis was imagining a world without like a tapestry. So this was inspired by Emporium Mall in Pakistan. Because Emporium Mall mein agar aap jao, it's very high-end, luxurious mall, but at the outskirts you will see like the people living in shambles, like tents mein reh rahe. तो मेरा हमेशा था कि ये एक class difference आता है, right? Rich is visiting the mall, and the poor like outside. And तो वहाँ से एक idea पूरा बना, एक futuristic sci-fi city, a world without privacy. So at this stage, I was still developing my illustration style. This was back in 2018. So I also created like a speculative science fiction film inspired by Black Mirror. ये भी मेरा thesis का project था. And then since moving back to Pakistan, मेरा idea था कि how do you show the speculative side of South Asia. So I started working on this series of illustrations that I called Truckistan, where I reimagined Pakistan as in like different apocalyptic or dystopian surrounding. Like a truck, like a broken down truck, उसमें beanstalk निकल रहा है, again inspired by Jack and the Beanstalk. And then my robot tree series, like robots की कोई war हुई है and this girl in dupatta is stumbling upon them. So again inspired by Iron Giant, and then how do you translate that and appropriate that into South Asian context. Some of my other artworks. So all of these artworks are being sold at Poly and other stories via blog mein. So you can have a look there as well. So reimagining New Doha. So Doha जब World Cup कर रहा था, how do you उसका एक sci-fi reimagine किया, where like the dhows and boats are flying and it's inviting people to visit Doha. Cyber Karachi, Cyber Islamabad, and then this was another example I was working on. I called it the Walled City Chronicle, but it doesn't really has that South Asian effect, except the flying rickshaws. So I keep playing around with creating these cyber inspired cities. So this poster was released last year and the idea was, and the title is The Lost City of Kites, and the theme was the story was it's like a travel poster inviting people to visit this flying city in Lahore. So because Basant is banned, right? So my idea था कि there's a floating city up in the clouds, Lahore, and people are have to fly their way towards the city to enjoy the festival of Basant. Another futuristic travel poster based on my own personal experience in Kashmir. When I visited, तो वहाँ पे बहुत pollution था, तो मैं inspired था कि how do I educate the audience के what pollution is doing to the environment. So this was just like a playful idea. Explore the last of Kashmir, tours available. कि last दरख्त रह गया, आके देख लो वरना ये भी चला जाएगा. And one of my most popular artwork is Cyber Lahore. Small animation. अच्छा ये animation थी, but I think this is a PDF. So yeah, the power of illustration again has it has the emotional impact to inspire action, advocate for change, tell crucial stories through book covers, publishing, and it's a form of instant communication जो कि हम अक्सर भूल जाते हैं. We are visual human beings and we like to look at and understand कि visual communication क्या है. तो that's I think how I see the illustration is, because it holds a whole level of power जो कि अक्सर we are not aware of. So yeah, thank you so much. any questions? Yes.
What if I start for someone who wants to like start with making illustrations like this or similar to this? Any advice?
Who wants to start illustration? I think अगर आपका already background है illustration में, I think that can help you. Or the way I see it, I like to read a lot. You know, so if you read a lot, if you like looking at visual stuff, I would say challenge yourself. You know, कोई book का prompt ले लो कि ये book है, इसका chapter मुझे ये एक sentence बहुत अच्छा लगा, right? इसको मैं कैसे translate करूँगा? तो try to challenge yourself to take written material और उसको visually कैसे दिखाओ. तो I think वहाँ से start करो आप. ये मेरी suggestion है. Yeah. Anyone else? I use two softwares जो cities वगैरह हैं वो Adobe Illustrator में बनाता हूँ because it's much easier to create like vector based linear, उसमें भी gradients डालना, और जो text जो hand drawn है वो Procreate पे I use that, and sometimes Photoshop as well if I need to add extra bit of details.